I'm about to share something so shocking, I would highly recommend that you watch this video sitting down. You're not going to believe this.
So today NASA's Artemis Moon Landing rocket takes off today. I thought, why not destroy that before it's even taken off by revisiting the original moon landing pantomime and going back to the press conference.
And I must confess, that opening wasn't strictly accurate. The only way this won't shock you is if it's the first time you've ever seen me or seen a video about everyone's favourite crane driver, Level Earth Observer. And as we've all come to expect, he is once again able to prove without any shadow of a doubt that we aren't going back to the moon. And I mean, who would know better? A crane driver from the UK who couldn't find his arse with both hands, or the thousands of NASA personnel that are making this a reality? I honestly have no idea how he's going to prove we aren't going back to the moon by reviewing what happened the last time we went to the moon, but neither does he, it would seem. So let's see what this Muppet has got to say for himself, shall we? Please subscribe.
So today NASA's Artemis Moon Landing rocket takes off today. I thought, why not destroy that?
The only thing you are going to destroy is more of the brain cells of the poor unfortunate souls that fall for the complete nonsense you talk about in your videos.
Before it's even taken off by revisiting the original moon landing pantomime and going back to the press conference.
Well, I suspect that this video is going to be you saying that we never went to the moon and that we will never go back again. But I do find it very interesting that you feel the need to talk about something that in your world would be impossible anyway, because you don't even believe that space is real, which in and of itself is a completely insane thing to believe anyway. But don't let me stop you when you're in full flow. Please continue.
Which is some of the most blatant, obvious footage there is out there. And of course, every body language expert on this earth will agree.
Is it too much for us to expect a citation for that, pal? I mean, you said it with such confidence, it has to be based on facts, and your years of studying this subject, right?
That Neil, Buzz and Michael in the press conference from the moon landings look more like they're at a funeral, or potentially their own family's funeral, than at a successful press conference having come back from a moon, travelled on a rocket, doing ludicrous speeds in a vacuum.
Ludicrous speeds? Oh, cool! Yeah, I've seen Spaceballs as well, you spanner. You do realise it isn't a documentary, don't you? After landing on the moon, taking one small step for man and a couple of giant leaps for mankind, it was finally time for Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to wind down and get some sleep. However, the tiny lunar excursion module, nicknamed Eagle, was designed to land them on the moon's Sea of Tranquility. It was not designed to give them a tranquil night's sleep. Now, at the risk of oversimplifying things, they had kind of been through a lot and were probably completely exhausted.
Of course, Buzz, as we're about to see here when we revisit the clip I showed the other day, is going to put things in perspective for us and show why the press conference from the moon landing was the way it was.
Awesome! And I'm sure you're not going to misrepresent any of it at all, are you? I mean, we all know that you were the epitome of honesty. Anyway, let's have a look then, shall we?
We'll go to the gentleman waving his hand with confidence. What was the scariest moment of the journey?
Hang on a second. Now, unless he was on the moon for 50 years, this isn't the press conference given after the moon landing in 72. What the hell are you doing? Because I'm certain you haven't gone looking for a clip that you can twist in your favour, have you, Leo?
Scariest. It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Circuit breaker.
As Buzz has said, yet again, for the third time I believe, it didn't happen.
Did he actually say the moon landing didn't happen? No, he didn't, did he, you clown? The way I understood it is that he was saying there was no scary moment for him. You know, based on the obvious, like him saying immediately after that, it could have been scary. Are you that desperate to have your childlike opinion validated that you go out of your way to discredit people that are perfectly positioned to show the world just how much of a dime bar you really are?
And now we come to the original moon landing press conference, with what should be three legends buzzing, oozing confidence, riding high on the adrenaline of an incredible adventure, having travelled 250,000 miles through a vacuum, in a spacecraft made of duct tape, tin foil, baking paper, and curtain rods.
Well, as I just said, and you just reinforced, they were probably pretty tired. Lack of sleep, a 500,000-mile round trip is gonna take it out of you. Quick recap. So far, Leo's proof that we didn't land on the moon is because the 3 astronauts didn't look excited to be at a press conference. Well, I'm sold so far. How about you?
So I dread to think what was said to these guys to get them to go along with this charade.
Let's examine that then, shall we? So they had just been part of one of mankind's greatest achievements, and as I've already said, twice, they hadn't slept, and they had done a 500,000-mile round trip. No, I can't see any reason at all. Maybe they felt obliged to do their duty and let the people ask them questions about what they had just done. None of them are teenage boys that were going to sit there like, I'm not your slave.
I've said it before, we know they're wrong-uns.
But how do you know? I wasn't aware that your knowledge of the crew was so in-depth, Leo. But I'll just shut up and wait for you to explain why they're wrong-uns. And you having said something before means very little, pal. Because you have also said many times that the Earth is flat and that space is fake. So to be honest, your word holds about as much water as a sieve.
I suspect they got themselves in a lot deeper water than they actually believed. Based off this press conference, I suspect in the early days these guys actually thought they were going. But of course, somewhere along the line, quite near the end by the looks of things, they had to be told, you ain't going anywhere.
And where have you been, Leo? What's your greatest achievement? How sad and pathetic must your life be? I mean, you seem to spend every waking hour desperately trying to find ways to discredit the many things that the entire scientific community... No, hang on, scratch that. Even I can demonstrate that you're wrong about everything you say in your videos, and a complete moron that believes anything any other conspiracy theorist says. Only I do that last part. That just isn't important enough for any scientist to even spend a split second on. They would probably just laugh at you and offer you a box of crayons.
Of course, Buzz said it didn't happen. And as we're about to see, Neil, Buzz and Michael's body language, rather than oozing in confidence, chest pumped out. They're twitchy, uncomfortable, sketchy, lacking confidence, marinating in pain and hurt.
Interesting. And I'm not saying it again, we've already covered some of the reasons why they don't seem enthusiastic about being at a press conference, haven't we? But talking about marinating, what exactly are you marinated in, Leo? Envy, hate, and bullshit? Because if this was smelly vision, I'm sure that's what we would smell. God, your ass must be so jealous of your mouth with the amount of shit it produces.
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade.
Hang on a second, let me jump in before Crane Boy this time. So NASA and the contractors involved in getting man to the moon constructed this entire con very slowly over a 10-year period, in full view of the public. Because let's not forget, the best way to keep a secret is to show as many people as possible exactly what you're doing. I thought everyone knew that.
We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade.
So just very quickly, and before Leo the boy genius chimes back in, and I promise you I am reacting to this one in real time, I've not watched it ahead. I'm fairly certain the only thing he's going to mention is the very monotone way that Neil Armstrong is speaking, and he will make absolutely no attempt to provide any alternative explanation at all. Go on, Leo, my old son, give it your best shot. Prove me wrong, if you think you can.
Yes, we can detect the excitement, the euphoria as you reflect upon that month, which was the highlight of the last decade of your lives. Rather than being absolutely overcome with emotion, and of course reflecting on that incredible adventure would bring back adrenaline, which you would have experienced doing those ludicrous speeds in your tin can flying through a vacuum. But no, you're hurting, you're suffering. I dread to think what they had said to you to get you to go along with this silly charade. It obviously wasn't very nice.
Damn, I'm good. My word, did I just dab? See what I mean? Leo, you may as well just quit while you're ahead. Think about it like this. If a complete idiot like me can make you look like a fool, imagine what would happen if anyone from the scientific community ever did actually respond to one of your pantomime videos. Yeah, I stole your catchphrase. What are you gonna do about it? They would completely destroy you, and I, for one, would pay to see that. How arrogant does one man have to be to publicly say the things you say? Haven't you got a family? And if you do, why do you hate them? I mean, you must do, or you wouldn't put them through all this nonsense. Or are you like many other conspiracy theorists, just sitting there in your one-bedroom flat, on the sofa in your underpants, eating a big bag of crisps in a stained vest, crying yourself to sleep because nobody takes you seriously? But if it's any consolation, pal, why would they? People are meant to laugh at jokes. And that's exactly what you are, a big joke.
We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon.
Like I've said, I've looked happier myself at funerals.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't know, would we? And that's probably just as well. It's bad enough having to listen to your bollocks without having to look at them as well. No, hang on, that came out wrong. Damn, now I've got this horrific image of him sat there in dirty Y-fronts recording his content with one hand, with one of his nads hanging out to the side of his Y-fronts. Ooh.
Happier. And yet we're supposed to believe that Neil has come back from this incredible adventure, having landed that silly spacecraft, nearly running out of fuel, and coming back to the globe Earth, flying through a vacuum, doing ludicrous speeds. And this is how he is, having retelling those stories.
You know, it's funny. What you just explained there is more than likely some of the exact reasons that none of them looked that thrilled to be there. Honestly, mate, a clown like you couldn't even begin to comprehend what those three men have just been through. And yet it doesn't seem to stop you from thinking that you're right. I thought you were destroying the Artemis mission, Leo, before it even happened. Not going very well for you, is it?
Observed on the spot, which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking at them here from the surface of Earth.
What's obvious, Neil, is the twitchy, sketchy nature of all three of you, particularly yourself. Of course, the camera's been focused on you mostly.
You would think that after 4 years of doing this, I would have learned by now that people like Level Earth Observer, which is a very funny name for somebody like Leo, because you have most definitely not observed a level Earth, have you? Because we don't live on one. Now, if his name isn't an oxymoron, I don't know what is.
I feel sorry for you, Neil. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I do.
You're joking, right? A crane driver from the UK that makes videos claiming to believe that the Earth is flat and that space is fake feels sorry for a man who had the privilege of walking on the surface of the moon. Really? Now listen, a friend of mine is a crane driver. It's a great job, and he loves it. And the reason I don't take the piss out of him for being a crane driver, he isn't a gullible enough idiot to be uploading this sort of crap to YouTube. And so the 1 or 2 people that moan when I take the piss out of Crane Boy, kiss my ass.
I think probably you were a genuine bloke who had good intentions, even though you were part of the Funny Hands Club.
Funny Hands Club? I better not be a dig at Jeremy Beadle.
I think you actually thought you were going to do flying craft through a vacuum and land on the moon. And obviously you've had a rude awakening, mate.
Now look, I'm no expert, clearly, but I think Buzz was the driver and Neil was the mission commander. Is it a driver or a pilot? I'm never sure. Anyway, but you're a drive! Oh, thank you.
Buzz in later life just doesn't give a flying excuse my language, which is why he's dropping truth bombs and highlighting it left, right and centre.
Or is he mocking people like you, Leo? Which is what I suspect. And who could blame him? Imagine if somebody set up a channel here on YouTube claiming that you weren't a real crane driver and that it was all just CG.
Because he knows now it's obvious. When we look back at the footage, it's like Airfix models, Thunderbirds models.
Without getting into it, because this really isn't the video for that, I covered the way the lunar lander looked and functioned, which was exactly as it was designed to, unless of course you can prove otherwise, when I made Eric Douche-Canoe look like a complete idiot. Not that he needs much help in that area, but I won't hold my breath based on what you've just said in this video.
A bit of space pantomime. Terrible. And of course we look at the press conference here, and we take into account what Buzz has said. Only a dullard would struggle to work it out.
Dullard. What an appropriate word. Very descriptive, Leo. You did mean you were talking about yourself, didn't you? Talking about dullards that can't work anything out. What exactly are you gonna do when the new footage is made available to the public of this new mission? The usual, and just repeat the word pantomime, followed by a few well-placed oh dears, and then laugh a bit. Because whether you choose to admit it or not, that pretty much sums up every single one of your videos.
We'll put Neil out of his suffering there, and we'll end it there, because it's so difficult to watch.
You wanna try being where we are, Leo? And based on the fact that you just said we will leave it there, I'm guessing, as I first thought, that your video destroying the Artemis mission does no such thing. See, I told you this video was going to be shocking, didn't I? Thanks for watching, everybody. I love you, bye.
Alright, watch this next. But before you do, make sure you subscribe. By order of the Creaky Blinder.